So I've had a couple people in the comments talking about trying to find legitimate ways to diagnose what exactly is happening with their system, what is bottlenecking their system. I know I made a video before talking about tracking, like different tracking apps that you can use for that, but I didn't actually explain what some of the bottlenecks you can find in your system are. If you're new to this, then this video will help you, but if you've been in here for a while and you've watched my videos in the past and other videos as well, you probably know most of the information in this video, so I apologize for that. There's nothing really new or exciting here. But like I said, if you are new to this, then this might help you actually figure out what you may need to dial down or what things you need to research in order to actually, get more FPS. So I'm going to start with the really easy things and then just work my way up to the things that some people may not notice right off the bat. The first thing is obviously an FPS cap. If you're noticing that your FPS is consistently staying at a certain FPS, whether it be 60, 120, 144, etc., whatever number in between, there are a couple places where you can find that. And my phone just went off. Fuck. Well, there are a couple places where that FPS cap can actually occur. One of those being in game, of course. You can go to your settings down here, and then in graphics, as long as you have NVIDIA Reflex on, you should have an uncapped frame rate that should go past 144 if you can hit above 144 FPS. And there are also, you can find this too in external apps like NVIDIA's control panel. I believe AMD's Radeon software also has something similar. The next thing, which you've probably heard about a lot, is a GPU bottleneck. This is just when you have your graphics card hitting roughly 100% usage most of the time. The easiest way to alleviate this is just to lower some of the eye candy settings, shadows quality being a big one, HBAO, SSR, and then also something that can help alleviate the pressure as well is lowering the resolution or using one of the upscalers here. My recommendation was FSR 2.1, but I covered that in my settings video, which I'll probably put in an info card or in the description. Most people, however, in Tarkov don't see this issue, but instead they see a CPU bottleneck. And that's where, for example, if I were to use the numbers that were in the top right of my screen right now, or top left, they could have less than 100 GPU usage and also less than 100 CPU usage. The only difference being with their CPU is that a certain amount of their cores for their CPU are maxed out. I've demonstrated this in several videos in the past, and that is most of people's bottlenecks in Tarkov when they're playing. This is why there's a lot of confusion based around this bottleneck, is because they don't actually understand that less than 100 CPU usage doesn't mean it's not a CPU bottleneck. I'll have an example posted on screen just so you can see what that may look like for your processor. You can see this in several different places. The easiest place is Task Manager. If you just go in here, go to Performance, and then right click on this graph here to set to logical cores, you'll be able to see the core by core usage. And generally this is accurate. You can also use, if you've installed MSI Afterburner, based on my advice in the past, you can use that too. It's in there as well. You just go over here and then hit this little graph button, and then you'll be able to scroll down and see all the different usages for a variety of different things. For both of these bottlenecks, it's generally just a low FPS issue that kind of suggests you towards this. It's really hard to diagnose unless you actually look at the core utilization, but generally keep in mind for CPU bottlenecks, you will have more stutter than with, say, a GPU bottleneck. So if you are experiencing some stutter, then that might key you in that there might be an issue with your CPU rather than your GPU. The next thing I want to cover, and I'm just going to put this in a separate block as a whole, is memory. So first let's talk about system memory, or SRAM, the RAM that you have in your computer, the normal stuff. This can be a bottleneck. If you do have, say, 16 gigabytes, this can be a big issue for you. Even if you have 32, sometimes this cache number right here can really screw you over. So just look in your performance tab in the same place I said before in Task Manager, and just see to make sure that when you're in game in Tarkov that this isn't maxing out the bar here, or that the committed memory, or the in-use memory, I should say, combined with the cache memory doesn't equal the total amount of memory, because then you will have a actual RAM bottleneck, and then you'll have to go through the, for example, standby list cleaner or the ISLC program that I discussed in previous videos. The key sign to this is going to be stutter. You're going to probably experience a lot of stutter when you have your RAM fully maxed out, as the system is going to have to clear out all the old crap before it stuffs new crap in, which is going to slow your performance down and definitely give you a bit of stutter. And the same is for VRAM. That's actually the little number that you see up here in the top left. It's a bit harder to spot sometimes though with this sort of bottleneck. And sometimes with people who have this bottleneck, it's mainly sourced from too high of settings. But if you want to make sure that this isn't an issue, all you gotta do is scroll down in Task Manager again, if you don't have the MSI set up like I do right now, and then go to your GPU and scroll down here, and you will see dedicated GPU memory here, and that is your amount of VRAM. If this is close to maxing out or maxing out in game, then that is a telltale sign that you have that VRAM bottleneck, and it'd be a good idea to lower things like texture quality or enable MIP streaming, for example. And finally, something that some new players may not know about Tarkov is that if you have Tarkov installed on a hard drive or a really slow SSD, that may cause some issues with performance rather than if you were, say, on a faster M.2 drive or something like that. An M.2 drive is recommended for most Tarkov setups. There are some really good SATA M.2 drives that you can get. There are also Pcie M.2 drives. They go in the same place, except one is using, to put it simply, the same interface as your GPU. Not really. It's just a different way of transferring data. And the other one is using the same sort of connection that you would typically see on some of those bigger drives that you would have in your computer. I'll put like pictures on screen to help with this. For most people, I'd recommend a PCIe 3.0 or 4.0 SSD, as that'll last you a hell of a long time, and it will, in some cases, give you quicker, well, sure as hell will give you quicker download speeds, but may help with performance in some instances where the game has to stream files directly from your disk. So those are the main bottlenecks that you'll see with systems. If you're not seeing any of these and you're still getting stutters as weird jittery issues, then it could be an issue with drivers or your Windows install. So there are several ways to troubleshoot that as well, which I believe I've talked about in a separate video, but if I haven't, I will probably make a separate video about that if you're actually having issues with Tarkov and how to go about trying to fix them. But with that out of the way, I think that's all I was going to cover in this video. I know it's short and it's simple, but I just wanted to discuss some of the main ways that people can see a bottleneck with Tarkov or any game, and how you'd be able to address them and actually diagnose which one it is so you can do more research and figure it out. I have tons of videos going in detail on each one of these types of bottlenecks, so if you have any issues with any of these, you can always leave a comment down below and I'll try to respond, or hop in our Discord where we can help you out as well, because we're more than willing to discuss this sort of thing. I know it was simpler as well, and I didn't go into super detailed about everything, but I just wanted to give you guys an overarching view of all the different things in a relatively short amount of time. You'd be able to sort of pin down a bit more which one you need to research more once you actually look at the numbers on your computer. But yeah, I appreciate you guys supporting these videos. Really happy to see the community growing a little bit, and I will see you guys shortly. Yeah. Okay, great job. This is Clem, walking out. Later.